Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Woke by Accident Podcast, a weekly chat about socially conscious topics impacting the culture. Have a great show right after this. Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Woke by Accident Podcast, a weekly chat about socially conscious topics impacting the culture. We are happy to have our most favorite co-host, Sambaza, host and creator of the Sambaza Podcast. He is a two-time nominee for the Best African Diasporan Podcast by the APVA, and he is from the Republic of Kenya in East Africa. He has also been a presenter at the Afro's Audio Podcast Festival discussing Pan-Africanism, and he will be an ambassador for the 2024 Afro's Audio Podcast Festival. Hey, Sambaza, what's going on?
Hey, I'm good. Long week. I've been busy for the last 3 weekends. Yeah. And we're about to find out why today.
For sure. Definitely. I'm definitely bringing some different content for you guys today. We have some great guests, great topic, and this actually hits home for Sambaza here. Is that right?
Yeah. A lot of things have been happening back home. I know I talked about it on the Empowered Podcasting last week on Friday, actually. And this is bringing a greater conversation about what really happened and what's going on over there. Because like I said, it's a village, right?
For sure. And so I will share a little bit about what we're getting into, and then we have a little brief video, and then we'll bring in our guests. So today we're going to turn our attention to Kenya, where a wave of protests have swept across the nation in response to their president Ruto's controversial tax bill. These protests have brought thousands of Kenyans to the streets, unified by their demand for economic justice and transparency. This proposed tax bill has sparked a widespread outrage, which many have feared will exacerbate economic inequalities and burden the most vulnerable segments of society. I mean, it's going to affect many things, everyday goods that are bought. So today we have the privilege of speaking with some of the esteemed organizers who have been at the forefront of some of these demonstrations, who will share firsthand their experiences being at the protests and organizing and provide insight to the broader social and economic implications of the bill, and discuss what these events mean for the future of Kenya. So before we bring them in, we will share with you a brief video here. So let's do that.
The power is the people. We are the power. We are the power.
Ruto must go. The thing Ruto should do is just to resign and go. GenZ is not tribal grouping.
Emmanuel Tata.
Rest in peace.
Credo Ayango.
Rest in peace.
Ibrahim Kamau Wanjiko.
People have been speaking all these years. We are not speaking anymore. We are going to show you what we are made of and what you took us to school for. Yes. Everybody went to school? Yes. Everybody knows what to do. Yes. GenZ power!
We're not able to be home, but we're standing in solidarity with all the Kenyans. We are pleading with the Kenyan government to listen to the cries of the people.
Kenya, eh? Yeah. Kenya, ah! Kenya, eh?
So thank
Yeah.
you for sharing that video that we could share with everyone. Sambaza, any thoughts on that?
Oh, shout out to JD who actually made that video. She's part of the Voices of Diaspora DFW, and she is the media person. If you see any videos coming off from Dallas, she's the one who is doing them at this present time. So shout outs to her.
Okay, great. And then you were actually in one of those photos that we shared. I just kind of added that in. So
Thank
shout out
you.
to Sambaza for participating and organizing and using your voice. That's definitely the mission behind this show before we even combine forces. So I'm proud to see you out there raising your voice, using your voice. So love to see it.
I'm taking a leaf out of you. Woke by accident.
It's not an accident, right? For
Uh,
sure. So before we as we bring in our guests, we ask you to join us and explore the motivations behind what's going on, and stay tuned for this enlightening and thought-provoking conversation. All right, and so introduction of our guests. One of the guests is a organizer from the Voices of Diaspora that you mentioned, and then the other is a organizer from Washington D.C. So further with,
I'm roll.
with no further ado, we have Kelvin, Kibet, and Angie. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hey
Thank
guys,
you.
for sure. Thank you for being with us, and we appreciate what you guys do. Sambaza, I'll
Yes.
let
Oh,
you.
let's start off with the questions here. Now, each one of you will have some time to, kind of while bringing the questions. So we'll go ladies first.
Okay.
Share your personal motivation in participating in the protests against the president, Ruto, and the tax bill. And in this, you're going to ask yourself, why you?
Okay, so ladies first. Okay, my name is Angie, and I created the Voices of Diaspora group here, based out of Dallas, but now we have people all over, really Kenyans living in different parts of the United States that joined the group immediately when we were getting ready to protest last week. So why me? Why what was my motivation behind joining and even starting the safe space through starting the group. Um, I'm a Kenyan, and things that impact or affect Kenyans affect me. Even though I don't live there, I'm still related to a lot of people that live there, and I'm still impacted by some of the things that were in the bill. Kenyans do send quite a bit of money home. We're still supporting relatives. We're still taking care of different projects in Kenya, and so I know, like in this bill, they had initially had added a tax on remitting funds. So any money exchange, any when you send money home, they were going to add a 16% VAT tax, which is quite a huge chunk of money if you're sending money home often. And so that was going to be one of the ways it was going to directly impact me. But in other ways too, thinking about the people that I have at home, um, the cost of living for them would go high. So we're talking about people that are already struggling to make ends meet. And what happens is that inevitably they end up asking for help from those of us who are living abroad. So if I have sisters, brothers, siblings, parents, and they're not able to afford the cost of living, the person they look up to is me. And so I feel indebted to them to support them and help them. And so I also thought that I would be in a better position in my space here in diaspora to amplify their voices because they have been protesting, speaking to their MPs, participating in focus groups, and speaking up against this bill. However, their sounds were not being heard. And so when they started saying, hey guys, through social media, we need the support of the diaspora. We need the support of the diaspora. And I was waiting for people, different people to take charge. And I didn't quite see it happening. So I figured, in collaboration with Stephen here, and a few other people, we figured, hey, let's just go ahead and start small and grow from there. And we can't even believe how how fast we grew overnight, basically. But it took just um, starting, and so there was a need for people to gather and have a safe space where they can uh, get information sooner and quicker. So we opened a group on WhatsApp, and people were sharing information almost as they were receiving it from different areas. So we were receiving quite a lot of information on what's going on in Kenya. We were learning about the bill. People were sharing different experts' points of view on the bill because, as you can imagine, we didn't really know much about the bill. But as the protest was, as the uprising was growing bigger and bigger, then it became necessary to find out what is really going on. And so through that group, we're able to dissect the different parts of the bill and know what was really affecting people and what changes needed to be made. So for me, it was really that part of the impact that it's having on the common man on the ground, as well as the impact it would have on us who send money home frequently.
Okay. Thank
And
you. Maybe
uh,
the next question should be so that, we have a lot, so they
yeah,
can kind of jump in.
right. And I think with the Kelvin, they're the ones who actually started it. They're the ones who were
Okay.
in front. Joined, I think, with the one mic show. They kind of prepared it. Kind of take us through how. First of all, you got to say why you, and take us through the preparation and what was your personal motivation to do this.
Thank you so much for having me. So, personally, from a personal level, being Kenyan, I have family back at home. I go home often, and as they say, if you don't take interest in politics, it will take interest on you. And you look at the bills that were being, the tax that were being hidden in the bill. For example, they were trying to tax even sanitary pads. And looking at Kenya, it's a country where most people live below the poverty rate, and we see kids who even miss schools because they can't afford sanitary towels and things like that.
Mhm.
And so it's really sad and ignorant for the president and whoever was in the budget review committee to think that instead of trying to figure out ways in which they can guard the dignity of our girls and women back at home, they are actually trying to tax them more. And then I'm moving to the remittances, as Angie has said. Yeah, when we are in worse economic conditions with inflation, then you end up sending more money, of course, because the worse the inflation, then the more money you gotta send for people to be able to fend for their daily needs. And also in the bill there was a bill that was requiring a specialized. There was a category of hospitals which was specialized, and the cancer treatment facility fell in there because it had a specialized equipment, and most people can't even afford cancer treatment back at home, and they were trying to make that category of hospitals have an increased rate of taxation, which means even for people who are sick or are actually trying to find a way to survive in such a harsh economic situation. So that is what motivated me to come out as a Kenyan to stand for our fathers, our mothers, our sisters and brothers back at home. And actually, looking back, you realize we've had ignorant policies being passed on for the past after the elections. The president has really been passing in some puny taxes, and you actually realize there was a policy where they actually said if you are a parent of a Kenyan citizen and you want to, file for their citizenship back at home, then they said you had to pay 1 million Kenyan shillings. That is like 10,000 US dollars. And when people were like, "What? This is crazy! How comes you need to pay $10,000 just for citizenship for someone who was actually, for a birthright?" And the government came ahead and said it was a typing error. Now you wonder, how does a government with all those editors and everyone who goes through documents before they do press briefings, How do they miss such an error? So this was just like the breaking point, but we've seen a lot of impunity in the way the country has been run for the past 2 years, and this was just a time to say no, this is too much, and we will not allow any more of this.
Wow. Okay. And then Angie, share with us your experiences or some of your experience during the protest. What was the atmosphere like? And give us a sense of that feeling.
So actually, we've had out here in Dallas, we've had two. We had the first one before um, last week. It was last Sunday, and then we had one this past weekend, and kind of different moods. At the first one was more like we didn't know what direction the bill was going to take. We didn't know if we were going to have any impact, but we just wanted to amplify our voice and our concerns. This was prior to even the protest in Kenya, so this was just more of like amplifying our voice and bringing attention to this bill, so that we would have wider coverage, wider involvement by different organizations, different human rights groups, different Kenyans around the world. And I think that we did good. I think we were able to be featured in various news stations, both here and around Kenya. And that just brought viewership to the fact that, hey, even though people are in the diaspora, they're still very heavily involved in what's happening. They're in the know. They want their voices heard, and they are supporting and standing with the Kenyans in Kenya. So that was good. The people that came were very passionate about
Good.
everything that they were standing for with the tax bills being proposed. They were against it. Obviously, we were all firm on rejecting that finance bill, rejecting budgeted corruption, because that's what happens is politicians in Kenya tend to budget a lot of miscellaneous things that are just, money that they put towards corruption. And so
Mm-hmm.
there was a lot of protest around against that. And so the first one was really just kind of more of speaking up against it. Now, coming on to the second protest last week, the protest in Kenya happened. There was obviously a lot of violence, led to several deaths. So the mood was more somber. The mood was um, more definite. I think we had an even higher turnout. The citizens were more the citizens and children. Actually, we had a higher number of children participate. They were more engaged, more vocal, um, more keen on ensuring that their voices were heard. And so, whereas the first one was more like, hey, we're participating, we're here, this is what we're suggesting. The other one was, no, we are firm, we know exactly what we want, and we're still sticking to our guns that we are
Mm-hmm.
rejecting the finance bill, because a lot has happened within that 1 week. The
Right.
president came out and conceded and said he wasn't passing the bill, but later we found out that it wasn't done constitutionally the right way, and so some parts of it are still going to pass and have
Mm,
been allowed to pass and
okay.
take effect. So it really has been a long week, so to say.
Yeah.
You could see the big difference between the first protest and the second protest, where lives were lost. So there was
Right.
obviously much more emotion. We actually had relatives, family of one of the uh, young men who was killed. Actually, one of the first ones to be killed in the protest was there. And so it was a very somber moment when they were holding his picture, commemorating him, and calling out the names of all the other people that passed away, and calling out all the injustice that has since taken place, with the army being released on the citizens, the police being released on the citizens, maximum force,
Mhm.
live bullets being used on the citizens, just um, things that we would consider punitive towards citizens who are advocating their constitutional right to protest peacefully.
Right.
So there was definitely a very, very somber mood. Definitely, people were more firm about what they wanted, and that was to reject the finance bill, and definitely hold the demand for justice, and hold the leadership responsible for the turn of events.
And then, Calvin, share with us some of what the atmosphere was like in DC, and also if you encountered any resistance where you were.
So yeah, our first protest was it had a really huge number of people and I guess this was because for in the previous like 2 weeks, the hashtag had been reject the finance bill 2024. So I believe the agenda was very clear. Everyone knew what we were fighting, and back at home also people had been shot, as Angie has said. People had been shot demonstrating, and people really knew what they were rallying against, and we really had a huge turnout. The protest was successful. We didn't really encounter any resistance. Lucky for us, unlike our brothers and sisters back at home, the police actually here, they they respect the constitution. They know you have a right and freedom of speech. So we had secret service officers actually, looking after us instead of trying to tear gas us and things like that. So yeah,
You know,
there was no
go ahead,
yeah,
go ahead.
there was no resistance. Everything went well. Everything was successful. Our second protest was successful as well. Um, we didn't have such a huge turnout as the first one, but I believe that's because the president had just a day before released a press statement saying they're not going to sign the bill. So most people, I guess, were still looking. We were still looking for direction and the next agenda because the first one had sailed through. We knew we had won the first one, so we are now trying to figure out what's next. What's the next course of action?
And yours was unique because you guys did it at the
Kenyan,
embassy. Yeah,
yes.
the Kenyan embassy. And one thing, Jen, you should notice that the first one, we all synced up. It was 1 o'clock. So at 1 o'clock in DC, when they did theirs, we ended up doing ours in Texas at 1 o'clock, and then California did theirs at 1 o'clock. Now, this was the beginning part. And I think the next weekend, the other cities followed. So there was a lot of gaining ground, and it actually went worldwide in London, in Belgium, I think France, all over the world, wherever there were Kenyans, they did amount to some type of protest, and they showed their support in it. One thing I want to tell people the difference between the way I know personally, I was shocked when I went to apply for the for the permit. It just took me almost, it was a 24 hours, and the next one we took about 7 days, but it was so quick, and the police were actually calling us back and telling us, okay, fine, here, this is where you want to be. They were actually telling us, okay, if this location does not work, you can go to this other location, and if that still does not work, there's this other location that you can work on. I mean, the police were there with us. Even like you say, you had secret service, we had actual policemen standing by us. And I think if you go to see Houston, the police are actually walking by your side with their cars, and helping you out. So it's not a matter of the way we think of how we do our protesting in Kenya. There's a slight difference when it comes to doing that. That's just what I wanted to add in,
Mhm.
um, going into how we do the things. Now, after that, after the first, and we now know that you guys we've delved in with the way it began and the protests, the way things went. um what's the situation so far? Angie, can you give us
Yes.
an idea, as in how do you think it would affect, not even the finance bill, but what's the situation going so far? Because I think a lot of things have happened. By the time we were going to create this program, the president had his own agenda, and people had their own agenda going on. But before we get into it, allow me to say salams, the people who are coming on here. Salams is greetings, by the way, Jen. We have Ali Badawi of the One Mic Show, and he says, hello, hello. They were part of the
Hi,
organizing
Ellie.
team. And then Emma Royale, she say, hey, hey, welcome, Emmy.
Hey,
We have
Emmy.
One Mic himself. He said to go inside, come a SIM card. Okay, so this
Hi, Mike.
explained he. Then we have Washek Ndirangu. She's also one of, when we are on the One Mic Show on Fridays. She's one of the people who come in, and one of the fans on the club. So she says hi. So welcome to our collective Walk by Accident, and Sambaza. So, Angie, go ahead. Let us know. Give us an update of what's going on as we are currently looking at.
So, what is going on here in the United States or in Kenya?
Um, let's go
Or
with
just
Kenya. Then
right.
we can give us the mood in the U.S. How it is from your perspective.
Okay, so I think in Kenya, I could say it's hard to tell now because there's been so much that has happened that I think we did not anticipate, that we're still processing. So with the involvement of the Kenya Defense Forces, which is the military unit in Kenya, the army, and with the involvement of the police, and now most recently with the involvement of the what is allegedly considered hired goons who are interfering with the peaceful protesters. It almost has interfered with people focusing on what the goal was. I think that once the president considered to rejecting the finance bill, um, it shifted slightly to the fact that there was some leadership concerns within the government. The president came out and said one thing one day on the day of the first protest in Kenya, and then the next day, or yeah, or later that night, the deputy president came back and said something else. Um, oh yeah, so no, the first day it's the president who gave a statement. The next day he comes in and gives another statement where he concedes and says he will not proceed with the bill. He's gonna, return it back to Parliament. And then shortly after, the deputy president comes in and um, gives a whole different speech as well, in which some more things are said that are controversial. And so it has brought a lot of sort of confusion and shown some discrepancies or some lack of competence in the leadership in Kenya, some things that are very concerning, which has enforced the belief amongst the people that indeed now they don't just want to reject the finance bill, they want they want a new leadership. Uh, and the slogan that has since taken over is the RMG, which is the Ruto must go, hashtag Ruto must go slogan, which is people are saying basically, you know, we're not confident in the leadership. We have lost trust in the president. We have lost trust in the promises that he gave over the last 2 years that he has not fulfilled. He promised one thing in the manifesto, he's doing something completely different. The whole government is corrupt. We just want to start afresh. And so that's the mood now that has been going on in the country is we're tired of the dialogue. We've been trying to talk. You don't listen. We're playing mind games. You say one thing today, you do something completely different. The members of parliament don't even seem to know what's going on. They did not know. A lot of them did not seem to know what was on the bill in the first place, a bill that they voted yes to, which is very concerning. You know, the people that are being impacted heavily by the bill are saying, do not pass the bill. The members of parliament are ignoring their constituents, who are their people that hire them, going on to pass a bill that will impact their constituents negatively without any care, without any concern. And so this shows that the people are not really, the members of parliament are really not doing their job as they're supposed to. They're, first of all, not communicating the needs of the constituents. They're not also informing the president of what is truly happening. Is what was mentioned by the deputy president, is that the president did not know this was happening. The president did not know this was going on, which is very strange considering there have been numerous opportunities for them to be made aware that majority of Kenyans did not want the bill. So again, in Kenya, the mood has been that, hey, we're tired of discussions, we're tired of dialogue, we just want a fresh start. We want you to dissolve the parliament. We want to go back to elect, have a referendum, go back to elections, and vote for a new leadership. In the United States or around the world, it's more of following what is being led by the people on the ground, which was initially initiated by the Gen Zs, but now seems to be a voice for everyone. Is that, hey, we are not happy with the leadership also. And so we just want a change. And that is going to stem up from change in the leadership, because at this point we believe that we lack confidence in their capabilities to do their job and do it correctly.
And then Angie, the reason why they want the bill, is it because of the debt? Is that, I was just kind of doing some background reading, in a perfect world, this would take care of all that debt. Is that?
Yes, that was what was initially said, right? So they
Mhm.
said that, hey, we're going to raise these taxes because it's going to help us generate revenue that we're going to use to pay down the debts that we owe, other countries.
Mhm.
Kenyans have been asking for the longest time. We need transparency. We need to know who we owe this money to. How much do we owe? Who do we owe this money to, and how much do we owe each individual person? Because all this information is ambiguous. We just know that we
Mhm.
have trillion a debt in the trillions, but we really don't know who we owe it to. And so when they talk about these numbers and they talk about generating this amount of money, all they're talking about is just the numbers, but no one is really showing us how much we owe, who we owe it to, how much progress has been made on paying the debt. And this is what a lot of the protesters are saying: be transparent, tell us the
Mhm.
numbers, show us who we owe the debt to, and show us the progress that has been made. Without seeing this, it's difficult to know if we're truly making any progress. Because what we
Mhm.
know is that, based on the past history, even though taxes have been raised with the intent to pay down debt, the country still goes back and borrows way more money. So we don't make any progress. We
Mhm.
raise taxes to pay towards debt, but we end up raising taxes and borrowing more money, incurring more debt, and not really paying enough and paying down the debt. And so we're stuck in this cycle where we're continuing to build the debt and not really pay it down and passing it on to generations after us. And so that's why we're at the point where citizens want to be involved in this process, like show us the money. And they also want creative means to come up with money to pay this debt, not just raising
Mhm.
taxes. There's so much wastage in government right
Mhm.
now.
Mhm.
If you look at the money allocated to each MP in terms of just allowances, they already get a salary. And then on top of the salary, they have a whole list of allowances that are not necessary, which is what we now call budgeted corruption. You know,
Mhm.
you have a laundry allowance, you have a cell phone use allowance, you have all kinds of allowances. They have, some of these people in government have their first lady, their wives have a whole budget, and it's not um, just a small budget. For example, the DP's wife has a budget of almost 600 million Kenyan shillings. The president's wife has
Mhm.
another budget. So just the president wife and the DP's wife or alone have almost a billion Kenyan shillings budgeted towards them. And these are unconstitutional offices.
Mhm.
They're not legal offices. And that's what Kenyans are saying. Why can't you get rid of these offices and use that money towards paying the debt instead of raising the tax? So these are some of the things that are going on.
That's crazy. So I think I'm gonna now go to the real Gen Z here, because all of us are not Gen Zs.
Yes, I'm not.
Kelvin is the real Gen Z here.
Yeah.
So, Kelvin,
Yes.
you guys have shown us something that's brand new. We haven't seen something like this. X spaces. I am still trying to navigate the X spaces. In fact, I was still having a conversation about how to follow these chats that are coming up. So X spaces was being used as a mode of communication. That was the main thing. In addition to the physical frontline protests on the streets. Now, are we seeing a change in the way we are fighting for our rights and protesting? And first of all, let's talk about the X spaces, how how it was organized and how things are being done. In your opinion, um, tell us how it's been.
Thank you. I'm actually not a Gen Z, but
Hey,
I'm close to the borderline. But
okay.
just to answer your question here, so we've actually witnessed the digital era has really come up with some very important ways of spreading information and communication, and we've actually witnessed how social platforms have come into act as very crucial and important tools of communication. Um, when the people started, when the bill was brought to parliament, people started, educating the people on what is wrong in this bill. People were dug in, the nitty gritty. People went in detail and brought them up. Okay, we have this about the land issue. We have the motor vehicle issue. We have the remittance issues. And the issue of the office of the first lady and the deputy first lady. All these were, things that did not make sense at such a time when the country is facing such harsh economic conditions. And the X spaces really worked because we had people who work in the office of the president coming in there to listen to what the people were saying. We had actually at some point it was said that the space that on X was actually being listened to at State House. The president and his advisors were actually following, and you realize these people were just ignorant of what everyone was saying. They realized the masses had realized there are a lot of unwanted policies in the bill, and but they were just ignorant about it. And actually, it's actually quite a shame to our representatives because it was in the public domain and everyone knew that nobody wanted the finance bill. Even the IMF before because they were behind the structuring of this finance bill to come up with ways in which they can raise more revenue for the country to be able to pay their taxes. And the IMF has actually been on the spotlight in different countries for their bad economic policies, which have actually ended up not helping countries but actually sinking them further in a debt hole. So the X space worked, but the problem was just ignorance. Like the X space worked perfectly for the youth rallying when we are going for the protest, where we'll meet, what time we are going to meet, and it actually worked well also for the members of parliament who are voting for the bill. It's just that they were ignorant, and they were so much focused on pushing the president's agenda, and it's actually a shame on them because at the end of the day, the finance bill failed, and they've actually realized that there are no permanent friends in politics, but just aligned interests. Because now the deputy president was like, I'm not going to speak for any, because he was trying to speak for a member of parliament. People were yelling, and he was like, okay, I'm not going to speak for any member of parliament. They'll come and sort out the issues with you because they have realized you are the people. And next time they'll do as per your wishes. So the president and the deputy president, however, they pushed for the agenda. They have now left the MPs hanging. It's now them going on Twitter and on media platforms trying to say, oh, we apologize for passing this bill, or wherever we knew you did not want them. Next time we'll listen to you. So from my point of view, we've actually won. And we've won because now the House, the Parliament has realized, the MPs have realized, power is in the people. You are here to represent your people, and you don't have to abide by the president, because the president, it's a democratic government. It's not a dictatorial regime. So you listen to your people, you represent them. If you follow the president, then when the year of election comes, then it's you and the president. It's not you and the people. So from my point of view, we've won. Parliament is now more solid than it was. There'll be more representation from my point of view. And we've actually seen senators come in and criticize. Others say they've had a moment of reflection and they've really realized that they've failed to represent and to lead. So from my point of view, we are at a good place than we were in the previous weeks. And I'm sure when now we call for things such as the reconstitution of the IBC, which is needed in order to recall MPs, I'm sure we'll have a better podium to do that than if this had happened before the protests.
Correct.
So I got to break it down for, we have people who are listening who are not Kenyan. So the IEBC is like our electoral commission. Unfortunately, unlike the US, unlike Kenya, unlike the US, Kenya has one that is constituted by parliament, and then for some odd reasons, somewhere along the line, it got disbanded, and it always comes up once every 5 years. So there is a bill which is actually in Parliament that's supposed to come in and reinstate it. So it's supposed to go to the president's desk for ascension and his signature. However, well, quoting quotes and quotes, this particular issue of the rioting actually has stopped the bill from ascending. Well, it looks like it's convenient for the powers that be at this current time because it kind of stalls everything. Um, there's a question I want to put to both of you, Kelvin and Angie. I guess Angie goes first.
Yeah.
Are there any other methods that the Kenyan diaspora can do to make people more aware and help fight for their constitutional rights, other than what we have seen? Now, from here, like what we did, what else can we do?
So I think for us in diaspora, staying engaged in the conversation in whichever platform, I think now seems like X Spaces is the main place where conversations are taking place, including now the government. I've seen where the president is actually going to start engaging the diaspora through X Spaces. I think the first session is slated for July 7th. And so that'll be one way to stay engaged in listening to what is happening and coming up with suggestions for what should happen next. There are very many people that are joining these spaces that are very knowledgeable on the law, that are very knowledgeable on the electoral process, that are very knowledgeable on different systems that need to be in place. And so these are good spaces to join, to learn, to engage, to converse, to learn, and just gain that knowledge to know how to proceed next. So social media is inevitable, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, and any other platform that you feel is necessary. I'm going to also say I would recommend following different TV stations because with us being in the diaspora, it's difficult to know what is really going on. And sometimes we know some stations don't cover everything. We know some stations were intimidated because they were being threatened with what they were featuring during the protest. So it's just good to be able to follow different TV stations that are locally based and kind of get to know what's going on and make informed decisions based on what you hear and learn. There are also very many different people you can follow on social media, whether it's on X or Instagram or Facebook, on their different platforms, people that are actually on the ground, that are advocating, that are making decisions, making recommendations, following the very politicians, the members of parliament, following them, seeing what they do, seeing what they are about, seeing what they recommend, seeing if they're actually listening. Many of them are now starting to join X spaces too and host and even speak to their audience to and take in questions. Those are good sessions to go in and engage with those different leaders. And so that'll be something I recommend is getting in the spaces where these leaders are, trying to engage with them on their pages. Some of them even respond on their comment sections, on their comment threads. And of course, the most important thing is going to be once we get the electoral board back established, it's going to be very necessary for even us in the diaspora to begin saying, hey, we're here, we want to participate, we want to engage. And so seeing how we can speak to the consulate offices to get our voices heard. I know we have the consulate offices in DC, we have the consulate offices in LA. And so just us as diaspora gathering and rallying to be heard, to be allowed to participate in the electoral process and participate for those of us that can travel into come 2026, 2027, definitely being there, making sure we're registered voters and making our voices count, not just making noise on platforms, but actually doing the work of participating in the voting process as well.
Kelvin,
Yeah. So yeah. Yeah. I mean, the
you want me to
diaspora.
read the question again?
Yeah. Was it the role of the diaspora in
Correct.
Yeah. So yeah, the diaspora actually has an important role to play in what happened back home, and the most important one is to make sure that once the electoral body is back, then in a democratic nation, you can really choose leadership by voting. So that is the first place. We need to make sure we register to vote and then vote leaders who can deliver on the mandate of the people. That is the first one. The second one is to make sure we get information on what's happening back at home, and if there are any things which suppress any social or human rights whatsoever, then we need to bring it up and make sure it's hard. And they said there was a phrase that says they came for the communists, no one spoke for them. They came for the trade unions, no one spoke for them. And then they came for us and no one spoke for us. So we really need to make sure whatever happens, not only in Kenya but all over the world, if it doesn't sit right, then we have a moral duty to step in and say this is not right, and advocate for better ways. And also civic education. We need to, as
Yeah.
our kids, they need to really understand how the governments work, how the electoral bodies work, and just the history and everything, and how far we've come and how far we want to go. So that will really help to make sure we nurture leaders, because they're the leaders of tomorrow. So that is what we really need to do. Yeah.
I agree. We have a comment. You want to go to the comments? I had a thought, but I'll just put a pin in that.
All right, we have Val on the line. She said, "Hello, hello, Val. Welcome to the show."
Hi,
And
Val.
Emily said, "I would suggest conduct a poll. I would suggest we conduct a poll and find out how many people in the diaspora, especially in North America, are eligible to vote. I believe our votes can also make a huge difference." That's correct. They can.
Okay, love that.
Go ahead, Jen.
No, so my thought was before we had got started, we were kind of speaking with Kelvin about what would you all say to maybe folks not from Kenya or doesn't have a direct link to Kenya, African American per se. Why should we care about this particular movement? And just make it real for us, other than being informed global, citizens and being informed on global news, which I feel impacts us, in some way. But I would like for you all to share on that. Someone that's, oh, why should I care about what's going on in Kenya? We're in the US, speak on that.
That's a good question. But I think, like Kevin just said, I think before we are American or Kenyan, we're human. And so when things are happening in a country where people are being oppressed or people are being treated unfairly, um, it's only good for humanity to support and be involved and be part of the conversation in trying to help them achieve their liberation. At this point, we know that Kenyans are seeking some sort of liberation. They've attempted to speak, they've attempted dialogue. It wasn't happening. I think we ended up having to reach out to different foreign agencies, including different ambassadors for different countries. We had to reach out to um, different congressmen here in the United States to help us amplify that voice. And I think we also ended up seeing that that made an impact. We saw it on the news that several congressmen actually did get the calls. I think that was one of the things that we did in Dallas is we not took a whole day to just call congressmen
Okay.
nonstop, a call all day. It was about 300 and something people in the group, and we just kept dropping numbers, contact information, sending emails. Um, and so we found out later that the congressman actually contacted President Biden and expressed their concerns. We were
Wow.
out on different platforms for different human rights organizations. advocating for the same, and we received various responses. We reached out to the ambassador, the U.S. ambassador to Kenya, flooded her page, and she was able to release a statement. So um, things like that. So just being receiving support from different individuals, regardless of race, regardless of country of origin or country of birth or country of affiliation, is helpful for all humanity. Whether it's us Kenyans this time, maybe next time it's going to be a different country. I think just being there to amplify the voices of the people on the ground is always helpful. And it could be also just a gift of support. When we're brothers, we're all originally from Africa.
Come on now.
You are really um, paying homage to the country that birthed you, where your origins are. And so it doesn't hurt to go back and say, hey, this is my origin. I have origins in Africa, and my people are suffering. What can I do? How can I be involved? How can I support? Whether it's by listening, saying a prayer, whatever it is that you do to practice support, all of that helps. Staying involved. You never know. Everybody's so empowered differently. I've known that lately there's been a huge migration of Americans to Africa, different parts of Africa, Ghana, Kenya. And so you never know. It's a small world. Things change. You might be stationed there for work or something. And we know that stability is so important. When one country is not stable, oftentimes it's a ripple effect.
Yes.
It causes instability in other countries, right? And so we just want to make sure that we're preaching stability and peace in all countries, because when countries are peaceful, more than likely we spread the peace. When countries are in havoc, more than likely we spread the unrest, right? And so I think it's been a lot going on lately in the media. When Kenya started the protest last week, it was just, I think, Kenya. And now I see that Uganda's getting ready, Ghana's getting ready, all these people are getting ready. While it's good to have everyone empowered, it shows concern. And so we need to really look into what's going on and see how we can best fit and support. You never know. Depending on what knowledge you have, what expertise you have, you can plug in. This is very good what you guys are doing. You're helping amplify the voice. You're helping spread the information. You're helping educate people. And so this is how you can support the movement. We never know what somebody else can do. So maybe people have organizations that they can plug in with the people on the ground and see how they can best support. We know we've had medical teams pull out of supporting because the doctors and nurses have been injured. Uh, Maybe we have people that are connected to people who can support. Maybe people are connected towards purchasing supplies. We know that many of the medics have said they are running low on supplies. We know many of the people that were injured need expert medical treatment. So it could be somebody here that's highly specialized that can dedicate time to go there. We know people that work in the media that are freelance journalists that can feature these stories and get them spread out. So I think just knowing and seeing, reflecting on yourself and seeing how you can best support would be the best thing.
I love that. Kelvin, give us
Yeah. So
your thoughts.
as we speak today, we have I think 39 people are lying in morgues. Some have been buried, and most of them really all they had were just placards and bottles of water marching in to say, "We are tired of the harsh economic conditions you're putting us in. We are tired of how you manage our expenditure. We are tired of how we struggle so hard to go to school, and then at the end of the day, there's no employment. We are tired of how you guys, go online and showcase how much money you have carrying them in bags while some of us are staying hungry. Some of the people go without food. And so if you can't really take a moral stand, at a time of such moral crisis, then uh, what else really can you? I mean, what other high calling other than that? So I think we should come together and suppress bad policies and uphold human rights all over the world. During the Ukraine, people stood with Ukraine. People supported them. People sent medication,
Mhm.
financial help. When it came to Gaza, people are doing the same, and I feel like we really need to come together and you know put out our voices as one and say, we need that, not only a better nation, not a better continent, but a better world where we really look out for each other, because at the end of the day it's just us. And so I think people really need to understand that whatever calling you have, maybe if you're in the media, go out there and you know voice out and say, okay, this is right, this is wrong. If you are in the legal field, come out and fight for the rights of people who are being suppressed, even if it's pro bono services. Whatever field you are in, you just need to come up and stand for your fellow humans. Yeah.
Mhm. Right. Sambaza.
Mhm.
I also noticed there was Rachel Ndabuki, who is in California. She does extra, and she had some of the stars actually lending out their support, to Kenya. Such things, we don't know who follows these stars and who follows her, and they actually amplified the information to their people, whoever's following them or who was watching TV at that particular time. So this is one of the things, like I said, you in the media, try and do what you can. If you're at work right now, there are people who, you see, there's something about this constitution. It's a document that's written by lawyers that people cannot understand. Right
Mhm.
now, at this point, we have some people who have gone in and fixed it to whereby Chat GPT is very, very helpful.
Yeah.
They are able to make the document be more understood, or you can understand it easily. And that's something that's done in Kenya. Somebody actually went and picked out the promises that the government had said that they will do for us, and it's there on Chat GPT. You just go click and you can read each one of them. I think there were over 200 and something going on. And in this day and age, information is out there now. Data collection is very, very important, and this is what is going to help, and this is what has actually been helping the Gen Z's in Kenya to fight for their rights. A lot of people did not think of them as having been very educated in what they're doing, but they have moved a step further. I've spoken to people who are naysayers. They didn't think that the bill was not going to pass. Well, when they saw it was going to pass through, they were like, "Yeah, it's going to go through." But right now, they're thinking about in another way. A lot of people have,
Mhm.
a lot of people's minds have been changed. There's a great mindset that's been going on. So I think I'm happy for what the Gen Zs have done in Kenya and what they've done to us. We've never seen something like this,
Yeah.
especially the fact that. So I think let's start from the beginning. We had the protest that was started off. The first one was very peaceful. No businesses were broken into. The next one, somehow there was some elements. They ran into the parliament, like the way we saw the June 6th. It was something kind of that, but it's apples and oranges when you're trying to compare the two. So this happened at this time. Now people were being shot, people were killed, and it was worse. However, there was one on Thursday, and I think, yeah, the one for Thursday was the one that was it the Thursday one was the one that was kind of yeah, the Thursday one was the one that they ran over into the parliament. The one that they did the day
Oh.
before was the one that was really, really because now there have been people who don't look like they were in the beginning nor in the second protest. they look like goons that were hired, and it's been said, it's been out there that there have been goons who were hired to come and fight the. They're actually going out there to spoil the name for the Gen Zs, and right now they've
Mhm.
kind of retreated back, and they're going back to the spaces to kind of restructure, to regroup, and see what they're going to do next.
Right.
But this is very
Mhm.
tactical, um, because as soon as they did that and withdrew back, the parliament, the the parliamentarians, the ones in the political class, now come in and try to sanctify themselves, and try to cleanse themselves out there to show that, yeah, they're with them, they're with the Gen Zs. But I think, to me, this was a ploy to have them back off, and then they come in and start try to cleanse themselves, and then say, okay, you know what, we're here to help you out, but not realizing that they're the root cause. The hashtags reject the finance bill was one of the highest, took up one of the highest retweets on the X spaces. Then Ruto must go followed suit. So there are many more. And one thing that, we are borrowing from what is coming off from there. They set in the agenda, they're sending it us and the diaspora. We see what their agenda is. Like, maybe they say, okay, occupy parliament. We take it up from there. So this is how we're having the communication. At this point in time, I think, I don't know. Where do we go from here, in your perspectives?
I think um, it's necessary to remember that this is a marathon and not a sprint. I think it's necessary to remember that lives have been lost, people have been traumatized, um, and it's necessary to re strategize. Um, the plan has been interfered with. Um, every attempt to have a peaceful protest has been interfered with lately. The deployment of the military um, with permission to use maximum force on civilians, um, with the command to use maximum force on civilians, is definitely something to be worried about and concerned about. So, as far as protests on the street, yeah, I think hold off on those is my suggestion. Um, but that doesn't mean the conversation stops. So, I think that people need to go back to speak on the matters at hand, um, the things that are impacting them, the concerns that they have, addressing the lack of leadership, quality leadership within government, and getting that addressed moving forward. I think that, like we said, reinstating IEBC, recalling, following the law. So there's already a law, there's already systems in place for how we can recall these MPs that we feel are not doing their job. So going back on the drawing board, analyzing our members of parliament, analyzing what impact they have, analyzing the budget, what cuts can be made, analyzing um, what the needs are. What is our immediate need right now? What do we feel like is a priority that we should focus on? And these are conversations that can take place in these X spaces. And then based off of that, draft a way forward. This movement started very organically without a leader. It's a leaderless movement. And so it's very hard for even me to speak because I'm not their leader. I'm just also following the wave as it's going, spending time in these spaces and learning and hearing from these people. And so as I continue to spend time in those spaces, then we'll kind of get the drift for how to move forward. But I kind of feel like the next couple of days is more of a dialogue space. People are getting into the spaces and talking, reviewing what has happened, and then trying to chart the way forward. So, in about a week or so, we should be having a clear way forward, or not. We just don't know. Anything can happen with Gen Zs. We've seen that they're very strategic in how they arrange themselves, in how they organize themselves, in how they plan their ways. We just always see is flyers out and people out in the street one day, and and so we just really don't know. But whatever way they choose to go, whatever way majority of Kenyans want to go, I think that we will assess, look into it, and see how we, as voices in the diaspora, can continue to support and get the common man a seat at the table, because that's who really deserves to have a seat at the table, is the
Mhm.
common man, because they're the ones carrying the heavy burden every day of all these tax penalties that were initially imposed on them.
And Kelvin, when you answer, I was going to have you also speak to that, this being a leaderless movement. I've read some articles that spoke about it not having a leader, and kind of in a disparaging way, the articles I read, but share from your point of view, and you can also speak to that.
Yeah, so the movement is has been termed as leaderless, and clearly it is. And I think why most of the followers of the of the movement seeking to make sure there's leadership and not just politics in the country. There's been too much corruption, and also with very harsh economic situations, then people can be compromised. So people are like, if we have a leader, then the state has all the money to come in and be like, you don't have to go and speak on this anymore. You don't need to ask people to do this. You don't need to ask people to come out and tweet this so much. And so it's actually been very hard for the government to really understand who are they looking for. I mean, they've gone to they have abducted some people over and over again, but every time they abduct them, they don't really find anything. They don't prosecute them in court. They just go missing for like 2 days and then they bring them back, which is actually against the law. So I don't even know. It's just part of the routine government. But anyway, so they actually realized, there's no leader there. At first, they thought some political opponents were funding these guys to come and derail the working of the government. But then they realized, no, there's actually no money being wired in. It's just people who are tired of how the country is being run. It's just people who are, they want proper governance. And you actually look at the images, and I was referring to the video in Parliament, for example. I don't think you can pay someone enough money to just see the policemen firing at them while they don't relent, they don't run away, they just keep marching. They keep marching to Parliament because, it's a symbol of representation, and since the members of Parliament had failed to represent, so the people were marching to show that if you don't represent our wishes, then we can march in and represent ourselves, because power is to the people. So finally, I think the president has realized, okay, there's no leader in this thing. It's just people who are tired, and if I don't act, then it might go the Sri Lanka way. The president might have to seek exile and just run away from the country.
Yeah.
That's why he is folded and is now ready to negotiate. He actually said he would be coming to the space, I think tomorrow on Thursday or Friday. I think he said Thursday. So the president has realized, as the funny saying that one time the wind will blow and the anus of the chicken will be exposed. So the president has realized there's no MPs backing him up. He's now by himself. The MPs have realized power is to the people. The MPs were very certain that the president will go for a second term, and they wanted to really be close to him, be seen as his aide. So if there's any way whatsoever in which he would help them be re-elected, then people really wanted to be close to the president, so they are the president's favorite to make sure they are re-elected into office. But now they have realized, the wave has changed. People are no longer just voting tribes. People are not voting parties. People are now looking at key performance indicators and picking out true leaders over just politicians who go around telling us a lot of gibberish. So, yeah, the president has folded. Now we wait to see what he has to say. He said, so there was actually a suggestion by the Salaries and Remuneration Commission to increase the salaries of the president and the members of parliament to cushion them against inflation. But the president actually, after people said, no, this is just a bad time for this to come up, the president put it down. He also said, we are going to reconstitute IBC. And politically, looking at it from a political point of view, then, it's a win for us when the deputy president and the president are not really in so much good terms. I mean, not working terms, but political terms. So politically, if they're not aligned, then the only people they can seek refuge from is the people. Everyone is trying to please the people and do as per their wishes.
Mhm.
Parliament does not bow down to one political party or one person. Then the notions of dictatorship are, eroded. And now every member of parliament knows they owe their allegiance to the people who voted them to office. And yeah, so it's a win for us, I believe. So going forward, we wait for what the president has to say tomorrow, and then we figure out what next. But one thing we are really pushing for is the reconstitution of the IBC, because right now we are beta drywall. We can't really do much until that has happened. Yeah.
Okay, Sambaza, now bring us.
I want to add is that when they say the leaderless, the reason why they keep saying they're leaderless is because it's been known that, well, going by what has happened, each time they want somebody is being asked to show up and you try to show yourself as a leader, the the president or the secret service that we have in Kenya will come after you, and when they come after
Mm,
you, you could disappear and never be seen again. So that's one of the things that has been with this movement that's frustrating the president. And one thing the Gen Zs in Kenya are saying, look, you might try to kill one of us, but when you kill one of us, the next one is standing right behind you, getting ready. So you're gonna keep killing us as we come all along. So it's a force that they have. They say they're a force to reckon
mm.
with. Yeah. So
Wow.
we've already talked about the movement and everything. Um, my question is, Kibet, you you are a citizen, a concerned citizen that decided, hey, we're gonna go and do this. So you're part of the leaderless group. You're not a leader for the Gen Z. So as Angie, you were. I- I'm part of it too. I mean, I came in as voices in the diaspora to help out as well and see where we can take this. I think also we cannot forget Jedida or JD who created the video. She's our media person. The group is called Voices in Diaspora. Um, what next for Voices in Diaspora? What is your intention to create out of this? And I think we'll bring it back to you, Kelvin, if you're gonna. I guess I'll ask you the question again. So let's
Okay.
start with um, Voices in Diaspora. What's the
So
next
for
step?
us, we created the group to create a safe space for people to discuss the rejected finance bill, right? Um, and in seeing just the conversations taking place in there, it's a co-ed group. I think it's one of the very few co-ed groups that I've seen or I'm in the United States. And so um, trying to pivot to civic education, like Kibet said, um, people being in the know of what happens. I think lately I've seen a lot of people just learning, well, this is the process. Many of us didn't even know IEBC was dissolved. Many of us did not know you could recall an MP. Many of us did not know the process of recalling an MP. And so we're going to continue to keep the space open to learn all these processes, to learn what the finance bill looks like, what the budget looks like. Because I came to also find out the finance bill is accompanied by the budget, but we are all just screaming finance bill. We're forgetting to look at the budget piece too. And so all these things I am learning as I'm going through this group from the different people that are sharing information. And so whereas initially we thought we're just going to create it for a week to organize one protest and close it, I think we're going to continue to keep it open and allow people to share and learn in hopes that we will be more involved in our political atmosphere um, so that we can effect positive changes um, peacefully. And so it's just a space that's going to continue to be open for people to vent, first of all, express themselves, um, regardless of affiliation of political party or tribes. We are tribeless in the group. We are not affiliated with any political parties. It's welcome to everyone, and so everyone can have a place where they can go share their input, their information that they learn, teach something. We've had people step in and teach us some things and tell us, hey, this is what is supposed to happen based on this and that. And so just leaving the space open for civic education would be our next agenda. And um, in future also opening that X space for people to actually have days where we maybe once a week or once a month or every other week meet like this. People see each other, we talk, discuss everything that's going on, discuss how it affects us in diaspora, come up with legislatures or solutions that we feel can impact us and try to pass them on to um, support us in the diaspora, also be included in the decision making in Kenya. So big things coming, and hopefully, as we continue to align ourselves and arrange our structure, we will share that with the public.
Okay. Now, Kelvin,
Yes.
um, I know one mic is always the one mic show is always very intentional about letting people know what is going on. Actually, when the finance bill was coming out, they have their fan club and they actually tell you what's going on, and people are listening to the finance bill as it was being read in Parliament. Um, but that's one mic. You came out as a concerned citizen, and I think there's Miss Val, who also is part of it, and there's one other guy called Bet. Right, three of you came up, and I think you also teamed up with the One Mic Show and got this thing happening in DC. Are you going to come up with another initiative going forward, independent from One Mic, or maybe together with One Mic, where you will try to see like the same thing we're doing, sharing knowledge on civic education? What do we see going on from a concerned citizen like you?
So yeah, first of all, let me actually take this moment to give a shout out to the organizers, everywhere, and particularly in DC, the people who've been working together with One Mic. We have Val, we have Bet, we have Tina, we have Lynn, we have Baraza. So the very committed guys who've really come up to support the cause, and also to support everyone in the groups, everyone who's contributing, everyone who shows up. We appreciate that, and we really want to see much of that. What's next for us? So what next is like, so we are really trying to, organize more on how we can create awareness on what is going on back at home, and just anywhere, as we said before, whatever there's a moral obligation on whatever part of the globe, then we have a virtue to step in and say, okay, this is what we are doing. So we are trying to have to find in the group, to find people in the legal field so they can interpret the law. We're trying to find economists so they can come in, talk about the GDP matters, inflation matters, budget management and everything. The media personnel to try to air out whatever information that needs to go out there. So looking forward, what we see, what we hope to see is more strategy, more organization in whatever roles that we can play, depending on areas in which we are specialized in. And yeah, we hope to keep the fire burning, keep educating people, keep engaging people in the groups. And when people come together, then there's so much information coming in, different people with different abilities and different ideas. So that's what we are looking forward to, more engagements, more awareness, and more education, and more knowledge going out there,
Okay,
whether in our country or everywhere. Yeah.
that's awesome. Awesome. Now we have another comment here from Njeriki Romo. She says, "Hello, I like this conversation. Yes, this way forward, I'm in support of this. The spending is way too much, unnecessary positions and high salaries is crazy. Yes, that's what we have been fighting for.
Mhm.
And actually, in Jerry was, I think, one of the person in the group that pushed me to start creating the posters, because I was like, okay, are we ready to do this? And I remember it was
Yeah.
about midnight Friday, and we were like, okay, are we ready to do this? Okay, here we go. So it took a lot of people. It's not
Yes.
just us,
Yes.
the ones we've mentioned. There's so many people who are out there helping out, and it's bigger than we imagined. So for each one who actually came out to do something or actually participated, they're part of the group. If you showed up, you helped out, because I know there's some money being sent out to help the victims out there. There's a lady in Kenya who's helping out, and as of Sunday last week, and I haven't checked or haven't gotten any updates, there was 29 million Kenya shillings, which is roughly about 25,000 US dollars, has been raised. And this money has been going directly to the people who were hurt or are in hospital or who need to be assisted in burying their relatives or family members who are affected with that. And I would like to also send condolences to all those who have been bereaved, and may they rest in peace. We are calling them comrades, as um, they are fighting for something bigger than just one of us. So
Yeah.
that's all I'll conclude for the day.
Okay. Well, kudos to all of you guys for using your voice and organizing to this very important cause. And I appreciate it. Please share the ways that us in the community can be supportive. Like you said, there's resources needed that we can share and collaborate and spread the word. If nothing else, the hashtags, have the conversation,
Mhm.
join in these conversations on X Spaces and or start conversations. That's one of my main missions with this podcast is having those conversations, asking those questions. We need to pull in some other folks and sit down and just talk about it. All of that is a part of the movement for sure. So
Thank
I'm
you all
gonna
so much. Thank you all for doing
definitely.
this. It's very helpful. I think if nobody talked about it, then we wouldn't even ourselves know what was going on, right? So the more we talk about it in different spaces, the more people are knowledgeable about what's going on, and uh, the more impact we end up having. I honestly believe after the first protest,
Mhm.
when everything went viral, and I honestly believe that people called the president of Kenya and had a word with him and softened his stance on the
Mhm.
measures he was planning to take. And so it takes everybody to make a change.
Absolutely. And you
So
mentioned earlier, we kind of waved over that when you had that phone mission or phone chain, that actually got word back to Biden. I mean, how impactful is that?
yeah,
So people say, "Oh, it doesn't matter." It matters. You know what I mean? Especially when we come together in these types of ways. Kelvin is the way. DC. Like we really can be impactful.
yeah,
Coming together in this way.
yes, true. So thank you all so much. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having us, and thank you for amplifying the voices.
Absolutely. And we appreciate you
Um,
sharing your time with us
yes.
to have this conversation. So, Baza, any final words before we let our guests?
Aluta continua. That's what we'll say. The fight
That
goes
will continue.
Let
Yes.
us continue. Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you for having us. Great conversations. Thank you for being part of the people who are putting the voice out there. We appreciate it. Aluta continue.
Absolutely. All right. And the audio episode will be out soon. And stay tuned for more conversations and content. We appreciate you guys so much. And take care.
All right.